Matt. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. You?
I'm great. It's August. It's always a good time of year.
I
Busy.
know. It's so busy. It's like the back-to-school madness has begun. For us, for many of you who are listening to the pod, you're already back. So you're like, catch up, people. So the Olympics just ended.
I love the Olympics. It really, like every 4 years, just watching the whole world have something to watch. I'm like such an Olympics nerd. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because we've lost the whole like everybody watching something at the same time, minus these massive football events, either American or global or the Olympics. Do they have synchronized swimming? Wait. Artistic
swimming.
Not splashing?
No, not splashing.
Okay. Is that an Olympic sport?
It is. And for the first time since 2008, the U.S. women's team was part of the Olympics. And for the first time since 2004, the women medaled. They won the silver medal. A lot of people have been talking about their tech routine, which was to Michael Jackson, and they moonwalked upside down. It looked really, really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So that has gotten a lot of press, as have the French headpieces that they wore in their free routine. I don't know if you saw this, Matt.
No, I did not.
Okay, well, you're going to have to Google it because the French headpieces were caps that had faces painted on the back of them.
Huh.
So everyone looked like they had two faces. Initially, they are extremely creepy.
It sounds creepy.
But the way they used them artistically was actually really cool. So we did know some people that were over at the Olympics, and they said that the French headpieces were a big talk of the town, but so was the U.S. women's moonwalking. So that's exciting. And it's just the excitement for the sport is there. And I was just really excited to watch it and see all the hype around the team that has worked so hard to get there.
Liz, more and more as I'm out and about, people will talk to me about the podcast and they'll talk about synchronized swimming. It's interesting. A couple of interesting little AI bits that have intersected with the Olympics. So I think this is going to be a longer intro, and we're going to talk some AI and Olympics. One of them is a different kind of Olympics. It's the International Math Olympics. And I don't know if you saw, but Google's DeepMind actually won a medal. Did you know that?
I didn't, but that sounds like it is right up my alley with like the National Spelling Bee, the International Mathematical Olympiad. I feel like if this was on ESPN, I'd totally be watching it.
It's interesting because it's pre-collegiate. So these are high school kids, but these are like serious mathematics high school kids. And they have to solve, in this case, they solve 4 out of the 6 complex mathematical problems. AI is proven to tackle challenging mathematical tasks and potentially pave the way for even greater achievements in the future. So the AI was actually competing against the kids. This marks the first time that AI has reached such a level of performance in this prestigious competition, showcasing the incredible potential of artificial intelligence in the field of mathematics, which, by the way, we don't talk a lot, but AI is not really typically crushing it in mathematics. So this is fairly interesting.
That is interesting, especially because you're saying that these are pretty complex mathematical problems. So how did the AI stand up to these students?
It stood up quite well, and it was on the medal podium.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true.
What does it look like when AI is standing on a medal podium for
Don't
the
know.
International Mathematics? All right. So yeah, there were 6 problems, and it solved 4 out of the 6. And of course, my curiosity went right to, well, what were the 2 problems it couldn't solve, and why couldn't it problem? So the 2 problems that remain unsolved by Google's DeepMind were in the field of combinatorics. I'm super familiar with this. So combinatorics is an area of mathematics focused on counting and arranging objects, and is generally considered to be more challenging than other branches of mathematics.
This is actually something I do a lot. Like, this is really interesting, right? It's like the ice cream serving problem. So like, how many different ways can you serve 3 different scoops of ice cream if you can only have 2? Or how many different combinations of like shirts, pants, and socks can you have if you have 3 different colored shirts and 4 different colored pants and 2 different colored socks? Like, how many combinations can you make?
Let's go back to this is something I do a lot. So like, you have 2 children and are you not giving someone ice cream? Like, what's the deal?
No, but I just think it was always fun, like factorials and permutations. I don't know. For some reason, I liked this kind of math because it's very, you can see how you do it in different ways. Like, how many combinations of yarns can I put together? How many combinations of ice cream scoops can I put together? So there's lots of ways it's done. And similarly with like combinations of people at a wedding. Like when you are seating people at a wedding, there's like a bazillion different ways that you can seat people. And it's fun math because it's real.
Yeah, so when people say to me that they're familiar with synchronized swimming from the podcast, they also say, you and Liz seem really different. And here we've illustrated that we are.
Okay, well, maybe you don't do combinatorics on the weekends.
I'm into it. If I ever get married again, I'm coming to you for the seating chart because I remember that was not a lot of fun.
It's not.
Given your deep insight in this field, do you want to guess why AI struggles with these math problems?
Well, I'm guessing, depending on the context of the problem, there is context. So you have to understand it. Even when these problems are assigned to kids, they need information like, is a scoop of vanilla and a scoop of chocolate the same as a scoop of chocolate and a scoop of vanilla? And you could debate that, whether which one you eat first. Does that change your ice cream cone, or is it a vanilla and chocolate ice cream cone? Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that AI has similar problems, that you do actually need context.
There's some intuitive, as you just described, there's some like intuitive understanding of the problem that AI may not get. And there's some creativity that's required to do some of this human-like problem solving. So given the vast number of possibilities, the problems like literally sometimes overwhelm an AI system, making it difficult for them to find that kind of optimal solution. Part of what is interesting is what we described before, which is that AI hasn't traditionally done very well with mathematics. In this case, Google's DeepMind, as we discussed many times, they have AlphaFold and they have alpha geometry. Now there's this thing called alpha proof. So they're combining different models of AI to really increase the aptitude and performance. And I think at some level, these things just fly by. Ethan Mollick had this great post sort of about the jaggedness. We've talked before about the jagged frontier of AI, where sometimes AI does things really well and sometimes it doesn't. And part of everyone's job right now, especially in schools, is to figure out, well, what are the good use cases? But if you think about the last couple of years, every time AI does something we didn't think it could do, we just move on to like, okay, what's next? And I don't know that we fully take stock. Mollick says there used to be a lot of bright lines that separated human and AI abilities. Over the past 2 years, they have been breached. Machines weren't creative until they were. Machines couldn't outwardly evidence empathy until it could. Machines couldn't display theory of mind until apparently it could. AI couldn't provide a tragic poem about a haircut cleverly rhymed with every word starting with the letter S. Something I try to do every day, right? Until it could. The failure of the bright lines doesn't seem to have caused that much reflection. People just change their expectations. Let's move on to the next thing. He goes on in this piece. He says, example, I showed that Claude can get remarkably far as an entirely automated entrepreneur, which is his field of study, with this prompt. Think step by step. Generate 20 ideas for an app aimed at HR professionals, then evaluate and pick the best one that could make a good visual app, build a playable prototype, interview me as a potential customer about the prototype one question at a time, and make changes. All just with a simple set of a prompt on Claude. And when I share this on social media, some people focused not inaccurately on the fact that building a prototype was one thing, but AI could not build the entire product. It's that they just blow past the remarkable achievement to say, okay, what's next? And at some level, that may be the case with mathematics here as well.
Well, there was another story at the Olympics that kind of caught everyone's attention. It was actually an ad from Google that everybody's been calling like the Dear Sydney ad. Mm-hmm. Did you see this one?
I did.
Yeah, it was on a bunch of times if you were watching through Peacock. But basically, this ad features a father narrating about his daughter, who's a young runner, and she admires the Olympic hurdler Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. And so he says in the narration, she wants to show Sydney some love. He says, I'm pretty good with words, but this has to be just right. So Gemini, help my daughter write a letter to Sydney about how inspiring she is. Make sure to tell Sydney she plans on breaking her record. Sorry, not sorry.
Oh, sorry, not sorry. Killer. Yeah, and unfortunately, it wasn't the sorry, not sorry that made the internet go nuts, was it?
No, it was the idea of just having Gemini write this letter to a sports superstar without, the girl wasn't even really in the video. He was just writing it or having Gemini write it. She didn't even write the prompt.
I love you, Liz. Liz is like, oh my God, at least let her have to write the prompt. Grade the prompt, not the essay.
Exactly.
No, that would have been an excellent, though very nuanced response. Yeah, I brought this up in an administrative retreat I ran this morning at this beautiful place called Mercy by the Sea. Oh, my God. These retreats are like every day I'm driving 3 hours down to the coast of Connecticut and then driving back to the mountains without even looking at the ocean. Wah, wah. Poor me.
you.
Exactly. I showed this ad and everybody got it. I said, what's the issue? And this principal was like, the issue's clear. These are all the cognitive skills that we want kids to have. And the dad, kind of forfeited this opportunity to collaborate with his daughter. And it's everything that's challenging about AI. And he's not wrong. I mean, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's interesting how much this just totally struck a nerve.
My daughters are on week 3 of sleepaway camp, and I was thinking about it as, could I have AI write letters to my daughters at camp? And I sure could. Like, I could certainly tell ChatGPT, write a letter to my 13-year-old daughter at camp, tell her that I'm having fun at home, but I really miss her, ask her what's going on, and fill in all the fluff. And I was like, why would I want to do that? Like, this is my connection with my kid who's away at camp and who I do really miss. And I wouldn't want to hand that over to ChatGPT. Would it be more efficient? Sure. Would it be fine because my 13-year-old isn't going to deeply read into what I write? Yeah. Would she care if it was written by AI? Probably not. But like, to hand that personal thing over to ChatGPT just felt totally wrong. So I've written my girls all of their letters authentically and feel good about it because it has all the nuance of like what I've been doing and the nuance of like the things that I know that they're doing at camp. But it's not hard to imagine just like having AI write your letters to your kids at camp.
I think you should throw in just like a random delve in there just to confuse them. Dad and I have been delving deep into the gardening in the backyard, which is, they would know from that.
They would know immediately that I was lying if I said I was doing anything outside or working.
The last story we're going to come back to this useful cognitive skills. It's kind of a theme of the show today. But the last story that caught my eye with respect to the Olympics wasn't really an Olympic story. But DeepMind, again from Google, has trained a robot to beat humans at table tennis. So I was like, are we going to have the robot AI Olympics?
That seems like, I don't know. I mean, how different is it from having like a automatic rebounder or a tennis ball throwing thing that you practice with if you're going to practice against an AI robot, if you can't find a competitor that's good enough? But
yeah. Listen, when the AI overlords take over and they're all playing ping pong against each other, I love on my Meta Quest, the VR headset, I think it's called 11 table tennis. It is the most entertaining thing in the world. I'll just send me some universal basic income. I'm going to hang out at home and play table tennis.
All right. Maybe. That's not going to be the way I use my universal basic income.
Okay. You think they're going to give you enough for knitting?
They better.
All right. This is getting dark. Let's move on.
Well, there was one other thing about the Olympics that was AI generated.
Oh, we're not moving on. Okay.
No, because I'm not done.
Okay.
There was one other AI thing about the Olympics that caught my eye because there were some new sports at the Olympics and I wanted to see what they were saying about artistic swimming. And so on Peacock, there were these short overviews of what the sport was and kind of the rules. And they were all very clearly AI generated. And I don't know, Adam and I watched them and we were kind of like, wow, that's really AI. And so they were almost boring, but they did give you this like snapshot of what the sport was and how it's graded or scored.
Were these the ones that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, though I did. Are these the ones that were in Al Michaels' voice?
No, they were in a very woman's voice that were very, sounded very AI generated. They sounded fake. They didn't sound, I was definitely not fooled and thinking like, these are great. They were just very AI-like.
You probably didn't listen to the episode where Jonathan took your chair, our boss.
I did listen to the episode, thank you.
Oh, okay. Then you knew that we covered this interesting story about Al Michaels doing these kind of custom AI synopses, like thousands of them that are customized to people's interests.
Well, that's what I was looking for, and these definitely were not them.
Okay, good. Jonathan, she says she listened to the episode. I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is, I've been doing that lately. This is ChatEDU. Like, we're here to stick around.
We are.
All right. This is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, the storm rolled in, Stanford University's new AI research tool. Liz and I will explore a wild new tool from Stanford that is a research powerhouse.
First, in the news, Matt will talk all about AI-generated video tools, which should be interesting for an audio-only podcast.
Yes, should be. And then Liz will tell us how many students are using AI to write their college essays.
And we'll go beneath the surface as we unpack this fascinating feature of STORM, which of course is an acronym for this innovative AI research, synthesis, and writing tool. Matt, I know you have it memorized, but STORM, of course, is an acronym for Synthesis of Topic Outlines Through Retrieval and Multi-Perspective Question Asking.
I don't know, but it just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, we'll unpack that.
I think it really ended with the M, right? Where is it? The multi-perspective question asking is all There you go. But we will unpack that.
And we'll end with another closing episode chat back. Matt, several episodes ago, you made the contention that teachers now have the power to be pro-level media producers. They can create just about any text in the world, but they can also create compelling images. They can create 3D models from a simple text prompt and all sorts of audio, including sound effects like this one. But while we've been modeling all this stuff, you keep saying video is on the horizon, but we're not there yet. But now, Matt, it seems like as we are going back to school this year, video will absolutely be part of their power tool set as classroom-based media producers.
Yep, that's exactly right. While OpenAI's Sora is still sitting out there on the horizon, it showed up at the Tribeca Film Festival, but it's not in all of our hands. A range of tools are live and available to teachers right now. In midsummer, we saw Luma Labs pop up. They have these very short kind of text-to-video outputs, and now 2 more have hit the scene, and they're even better. So the first one is Runway. Runway's been around for a little while, but this is Runway Gen-3, which creates really compelling videos, as well as a cool tool. We're going to try it here where you take basically an image and it generates a video directly from the image. And then the second one is called Kling, K-L-I-N-G. This is a Chinese company that allows users to create longer videos. They're pretty realistic and they have subtitles in a wide range of languages, making them more useful for teachers in the classroom, assuming that they're comfortable using the tool.
Well, what do you mean by comfortable?
I mean, it's interesting. This is not our area. We don't do kind of global affairs. But there's a bit of generalized anxiety about AI and other technology companies that are based out of China. Of course, in reality, if you look at TikTok, people are pretty darn comfortable when they see the value in a tool or a platform, and I suspect that Kling will be no different.
Okay, I gotcha. So on our audio-only podcast, it's a little tough to talk about a video generation tool. I mean, we've used all sorts of AI-generated texts, and as you know, we use 11 Labs regularly to bring that text to life. And in the last couple of episodes, we even used Udio to feature AI-generated songs we've created on topics like cell division in the style of Wicked and AI summer professional development. 2 topics that pair nicely without...
Cells divine, it's quite a sight, my dear.
Okay, we got it. So it's really easy and interesting to take those in, but we can't bring to life what we're seeing in these videos. But that said, we're going to give it a try. Why don't we throw a couple of prompts in and describe what we're seeing?
So I've just put a prompt into Runway Gen-3, which is a classroom of diverse students engaging with holographic displays of historical events.
All right, so tell me what you're seeing.
Well, basically that. It's a short clip. I set it for 10 seconds. We had to pay a couple bucks to get in here. The video shows a very modern-looking classroom. I don't know, 10 or 12 kids, different backgrounds. They're sitting at their desks. And then at the front of the classroom is a sort of shimmering holographic display. There's one that shows something that looks like maybe roughly the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Another one, sort of Roman times, maybe a Berlin Wall. They're all pointing and they're discussing and they seem quite animated.
Well, that was pretty cool. Why don't we try another one? How about a time lapse of a school garden growing from seeds to a thriving vegetable patch with students tending to it?
That's a great prompt, Liz.
All right, so what did it generate?
Bzz, it's kind of doing its thing. It's loading, it's generating. Let's see. Not bad, not great. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it is kids in a garden, and they seem like they're doing something. You don't really see it growing from seed to thriving patch, but I don't know, it sort of reminds me of a GIF, but I mean, it's okay.
A GIF. I can't be called wrong because I said it both ways.
Exactly.
Good strategy. Yeah, I think it's actually quite beautiful. And we did set it to fairly short. So I think I made it 10 seconds long. And this isn't cheap. I think it was $15 a month. I'm sure we're going to get in trouble with our executive producer for spending some money while she's on vacation.
Sorry, Cam.
Yeah, sorry, Cam. But I think you can see where this is going. I played with Runway Gen-2, and this is a substantially different and better tool. So I think teachers are going to dig it. All right. And then there's another feature for Runway, which is where you can take a single image and then upload it. And rather than text to video, it's like a fixed image to video. You got one you want to throw my way?
I'm going to send you a picture of Aloe and Vicky, my dog and our boss Jonathan's dog.
Oh, I'm so glad you clarified that because I was like, Aloe and Vicky sounds familiar, but not sure.
Yeah, ha, ha, ha. Well, they are two very lovely yellow labs. So put their picture in there and see what happens.
Okay. Well, little time lapse have gone by. We uploaded the two dogs side by side. And what was the prompt that you gave us?
Two dogs getting ready to go for a walk.
Okay. And if you would, Liz, just describe what the heck just happened.
Oh, my goodness. What happened was Vicky turned into two dogs, one that came out of her back and started walking over to the box where the toys are, and Aloe just kind of stood there and looked weird, but all of a sudden we went from two dogs to three because Vicky became two dogs.
Yeah, it's neat. Like the motion's really cool, but really odd. And when Liz says that it came out of the dog's back, she really means like the tuchus.
Yes. I wanted us to maintain our E rating.
We're 20 some odd episodes in. We have not yet made any references to tuchus. Are they tuchai?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. I should know. Moving on. That was really weird.
That was really weird.
But compelling nonetheless.
Absolutely. So these tools are incredibly powerful, but now that we've played with them, we need to address the elephant in the room, or maybe it's the three dogs in the room. How do we ensure that students can critically evaluate this kind of AI-generated content?
Yeah, you think a kid would have a hard time going, that probably wasn't real.
I mean, the three dogs one is pretty obvious, but you can see that it's going to eventually be something that looks totally real.
No, you're right. I mean, the AI literacy component here is crucial. Ideally, teachers and parents need to help students understand that not everything they see online is real, even if it looks convincing. I mean, this is absolutely the year. I say this all the time in professional learning. I've gotten better at saying that. This is absolutely the year where what you see, what you hear, what you experience may or may not be real. So one approach could be to show students AI-generated videos like that one alongside real videos and kind of challenge them to spot the differences.
Right. Because although that is a really obvious AI mistake, you could totally still see some kids questioning, like, well, maybe that dog was hidden behind it, or like you could convince someone.
Liz, it came out of the dog's backside.
Okay, that one was really a bad one. But there's plenty of AI generated stuff that does look real. That one with the kids in the garden, that looks real. And we know that that kid doesn't really exist, nor does that garden.
Now, that's a good point. I mean, another important aspect, I think, is teaching students to cross-reference the information. If they see video making a claim, they should know, just like they would with ChatGPT's text-based content, right? They should know how to verify that information is coming from a reputable source.
And as always, we talk about the ethical implications, and we can't forget about that. So students need to understand the potential misuse of these technologies, like creating deepfakes and spreading misinformation.
I was so pleased to see that Congress here in the United States, which doesn't do a lot of acting, I think is either proposed or maybe passed now a non-consensual AI porn bill, because there really haven't been like very specific laws to deal with this really troubling artifact. And in some conversations with schools lately, folks are like, oh, Sorry, I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but our academic integrity policy takes care of AI. Well, not when it comes to things like deepfakes and the manipulation of video in troubling ways. But you're right. It's a balance between embracing these amazing creative tools and developing the critical thinking skills to navigate a world where what we're seeing isn't always real. And teachers do have a critical role in preparing students for this new media landscape. But still, we can't ignore, right, Liz? In 20 months, all of a sudden, teachers have, and especially if you weren't like a expert video producer or audio producer or a 3D model producer, suddenly they can make images and videos and 3D models and songs through a really simple interface. I mean, the learning curve on these tools is drop dead simple. I know sometimes we're a broken record, but generative AI is going to go way beyond the kind of text in, text out. And it's just super exciting to see how teachers will use these simple pro-level media production tools that are created through AI this coming school year.
Absolutely. So as we're talking about ethics in AI-generated content and critical thinking, that brings up an article I read in July about college essays. So it's that time of year. Rising high school seniors are starting their college applications. Some are writing and polishing their essays. I was actually with my cousin just yesterday working on her application and portfolio to art school. And in my career, I've worked on hundreds of college essays with high school students. It's really one of my favorite things. But it's such a stressful process now. I went through it over 2 decades ago. For you, it was even longer.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, just reminding you.
Appreciate it.
But both of your children went through it recently. And in another 2 years, this is where my daughter's going to be. So what do you think is the most challenging part for students as they're applying?
I mean, I think it's really the essay writing, right? I mean, so much of the application, especially with a Common App, is basic info. You got to fill it out. But the essay means a lot. It's pretty much your one chance to show admissions your voice, right? The Common App has these 7 topics that are pretty vague and open. And actually, the 7th topic is an essay on any topic of your choice. So basically, the field is wide open, and that's a hard place to start.
Exactly. There are a lot of stresses about writing this essay. You want to stand out, but you don't want to reveal too much. You want it to be great, but it's got to be authentic. And the weight of this essay is probably heavier than anything they've ever written by the age of 16, 17, 18. It's so much more important than a grade. This is admissions to college. And so that's where the AI comes in. So Foundry 10, which is an ed research and resource group, published a white paper this summer on the use of AI in writing college essays. Any guesses on what % of students admitted to using AI in some capacity on their essays?
Admitted to.
Admitted to.
Oh, boy. 30%?
Pretty close. A third of students said they used AI in some way. And about half in a way that seems pretty legit, like brainstorming and polishing the essays where they did the heavy lifting. They wrote it. But 6% admitted, so that's only the ones that admitted, to letting AI do the majority of the work. So what do you think about that?
I mean, it seems about right and also sort of unfair because there aren't ways for colleges to check on whether or not students are using it. I mean, we've talked about content detectors ad nauseum here. It comes down to the honor system and hoping that the students aren't doing that.
So that's kind of where I started. But then, what if I told you that 25% of students admitted to Harvard used a college consultant in their application process? That gets a bit murkier, right?
Yeah, totally.
There are many students, obviously mostly in wealthy suburbs, who use an outside college admissions counselor to help their application process along. And we know these consultants run the gamut from very ethical and just helping with some college ideas, polishing essays, to very unethical. And I think we all remember the college scandal called Varsity Blues, where an admission consultant was fabricating all kinds of lies for lots of money to help kids of the very wealthy get into the most prestigious schools. So if we take out those extreme cases and go back to kids using AI in ethical ways, like brainstorming and polishing essays and maybe getting some feedback, versus kids using college consultants, I mean, who cheated? Did anyone? Colleges have known about and have been fine about students using college consultants for years. And while it annoyed some people and it was definitely giving those that have resources a leg up, it wasn't really defined as cheating, but now AI comes along and everyone has access, and all of a sudden there are questions about whether this is cheating. So perhaps as I said a few episodes ago when I admitted maybe AI could level the playing field by allowing every kid to have a more personalized tutor in their pocket for academics, this is a similar case that everyone can get some impartial, helpful feedback on their essays.
Yeah, or let's see, the colleges can just open up their field house for 3 days, fly kids in from all over the country, take out blue books and go, college essay, have at it, kiddo.
I don't see that happening. Remember when we applied, some colleges insisted that you handwrite your essays?
It was a tragedy for me, actually. My handwriting is just horrid.
Yeah, I hate handwriting, but yeah, that was a thing. Anyway, some colleges have weighed in, and there are some that have made statements and said that you can use it to brainstorm and edit, but you cannot pass off AI-generated essays as your own work, which seems reasonable. On the other hand, some universities, Brown being one of them, said that AI is not permitted under any circumstances. And like you said, this is a hard line to take because there is no way to check. An admission counselor knows nothing about the student, what their writing style is like, whether this is representative of their work, and the AI detectors are notoriously inaccurate, so it's an honor system, which it always has been. Like, people could have always had somebody else write their essay, whether it was a friend, a parent, a teacher, or a really highly paid consultant. So this article really just made me think a lot. Like I said, I've worked with hundreds of students applying to college, and reading and editing essays is always my favorite thing to do. And they just get to write about something interesting and share their voice. So, I mean, it just, again, reminds us that the college process is flawed and unfair. And this just brings it home again.
What'd you write your college essay about, Liz?
Playing clarinet.
Huh. Fascinating.
What'd you write yours about?
Was that like a productive struggle for you? Kid grew up in White Plains. The clarinet was her like pole vault out of White Plainsness.
No, I was a competitive quote unquote clarinet player. Like I auditioned for NYSSMA every year, and I had a really terrible audition in 10th grade and got a really low score. But junior year, I came back and did really well. So.
The triumph.
Over the clarinet.
I love it. So, Liz, I should remember this as your dear friend, I'd like to say, and podcast co-host, but somehow the title has slipped my mind. Can you remind me the title of your dissertation and kind of roughly what it was about without putting us all to sleep?
My dissertation would never put anyone to sleep, and I can't believe you don't remember it, but it is Students' Self-Efficacy in High School Mathematics, a Cross-Case Analysis. So basically, I did a case study of 4 students, all high school students, who struggled with math. They were definitely working with below average math content for high school. And they also had low math self-efficacy, which means they didn't have a positive outlook on their ability to learn math. Self-efficacy is sort of like self-confidence, but subject specific. So it was about math. I taught them all year and kind of kept track of their work and documented changes in attitude and behavior. Over the course of a school year, and to see if it, how their self-efficacy changed in relation to mathematics. I even brought in some show and tell today, Matt.
Oh, look
Here
at that.
It is.
Nice.
All 268 pages of my bound dissertation.
You guys can't see this, but I'm lifting Liz's dissertation like a barbell. It's heavy and impressive.
268 pages.
Yeah, and I'm just joking with the little snooze. That's very cool.
Yeah. So that's what I did.
All right. Well, that's a serious and important accomplishment. I am not intending to belittle it in any way. And it's a very cool topic, and I love that it was sort of like action research and really grounded in work that you were doing in an important community. So as we've mentioned, I don't have a dissertation. No, I'm not even like an ABD. Isn't that all but dissertation?
All but dissertation, yeah.
I'm more like an NEC, not even close to dissertation. But my writing and research skills are pretty fierce. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a second and I'm going to write your dissertation. Is that okay?
No, because I spent a long time on it and I don't know what you mean, but you're making me think of a episode a couple of episodes ago where you essentially said you're pretty humble and don't have much of an ego and then went to compare yourself to Taylor Swift. And so I'm getting those same vibes here that you think you're going to write my dissertation in a few seconds. But yeah, go ahead, take a shot. What's your approach?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely pulling in a little help here, Liz. Recently, I've heard folks referring to AI as a second brain, right? The ability to doppelganger yourself or augment your capacity in a way that reflects kind of keeping the human in the loop, but at the same time leveraging the power of AI. So I'm going to grab a little Dr. Radey's second brain with a new research and writing tool from Stanford University called Storm.
Okay, so this is making your superpowers seem a little diminished. It's not like you're going to write my dissertation. You're essentially pulling in a pretty massive second brain through AI, but let's see what you can do. I'm curious.
All right, cool. So I'm opening up the URL for Storm, and we'll drop this into the show notes. And I've put in the title of Liz's dissertation, and then you also have to put in sort of the purpose of the research, and we'll hit go. Okay, so how'd I do?
I'm literally speechless. So this comes up with student self-efficacy in high school mathematics, and on the left side of my screen, I see what it has generated broken down, and it is basically written a 9-page in what could be introduction to my entire dissertation. So it starts with a theoretical background. It goes into the factors that influence self-efficacy in math. It quotes Albert Bandura, who was seminal writer on social cognitive theory and self-efficacy and is like the star of my entire dissertation. It goes into the theoretical background and how you can measure self-efficacy and the impact of self-efficacy on math performance, then strategies to improve self-efficacy, some research findings, the challenges and criticisms, and future directions. Of course, everything is footnoted, and you can click on any footnote, and it gives you the title, the URL, and the highlights. So these are all actual legitimate references. It is not a hallucinated reference. When I was watching it do this work, I could see the exact links it was scanning as it was going through the process of creating this whole summary.
Isn't that wild? It's like, this will take 3 minutes, and then you just see it like chugging through all of these references.
Right. And it didn't give all of the references at the end of what it chugged through, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if my dissertation came through as something it's even referencing because my dissertation is published.
So look, I wrote your dissertation and your dissertation was referenced.
Well, sure. But I can also click on this button right here that says See Brainstorming Process, and it outlines the kind of the basic topics that were part of this research that the bot did automatically and shows you what it was looking for. So, for example, I can go to social psychologist, and it shows the prompt that I didn't write, that it wrote itself. What are some common social factors within the school environment that can influence a high school student's self-efficacy in mathematics? And now it has a page of things about that question. It answers the question.
Is that a similar question that you had in your own dissertation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I mean, it's all here. Can you elaborate on how positive and negative peer interactions specifically impact high school students' self-efficacy in math? And so when you think about self-efficacy, not to get like super deep in the weeds, but self-efficacy is developed by both your own experiences and vicarious experiences, right? So if you are a terrible basketball player and you're watching Michael Jordan play and he misses, that's going to lower your own self-efficacy. If Michael Jordan can't make that shot, how am I ever going to make that shot, right? And at the same time, the reverse happens. Like if you are sitting there and a little 6-year-old comes up and makes the shot, you're going to go, well, if a 6-year-old can make the shot, I can make the shot. And so, but at the same time, you also take information from your own attempting of the shot. I've tried this 30 times and it never worked. Or I tried this 30 times and I only missed twice. I mean, overall, this is mind-blowing. I mean, the references are real. They hit on the major players in this field. can't believe it's all just there.
It's really quite remarkable. It reminds me a little bit, we've talked about this thing called Perplexity Pages, which is a tool that Perplexity has where it will write a very nice looking, like more graphically appealing Wikipedia-style research article on a topic. It will show you the links, although not quite at this level of detail. This is really much more of a powerhouse tool. And it's kind of cool, too. We've been using the cloud-hosted application, but it's an open source tool. You can install this locally if you've got the chops. It's way over my technical pay grade, but you can install it locally, and then you can decide which language model you want to attach it to. So if you have some cool open source model that you have running on your own machine, you can connect the research functions in Storm to that large language model and do all sorts of customizations. I mean, it's really quite an interesting illustration of the power of generative AI plus research, but it also brings up some tough questions.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely struggling with some of the implications associated with a tool like this. I think back when I was writing my dissertation, I would hear from the generation behind me, well, we had to go to the library to go find those articles, and you're so lucky. I was able to write my dissertation for school in Pennsylvania from my room in Connecticut, and I could do all my research online, but I was still going through journal after journal after journal, and the people before me that had to type their dissertations on a typewriter, and then if they made a mistake, and now I don't know, I feel like it's such a I feel like it's such a big hurdle, and it's such a big thing, and you want it to be tough and you want it to be hard, and I'm kind of this makes it a lot easier, but
And that's the theme here, right? I mean, we're definitely seeing over the many episodes, and just as we work with schools and we talk with each other and we read and we listen and we record, there's a very distinct pattern about what Justin Reich calls useful cognitive skills. I mean, if you look just at this episode, we talked about Ethan Mollick saying, AI wasn't creative until it was. It didn't have theory of mind until it did. Or just the Dear Sydney ad from the Olympics, right?
I mean, when you think about what's lost in the mix, the productive struggle of reading articles that were useless. I mean, I don't know how many articles I read that ultimately had nothing to do with my dissertation. And this really does a lot of that work, and it kind of crushes the task. And if you go back and think about the previous episodes we've done about the impact on reading or writing when AI is in the mix, you hit on it, but just think about the productive struggle when it comes to that blank screen, right? Speaking for myself, and I've certainly seen this with everybody I know who uses AI regularly, none of us have spent more than a minute staring at a blank screen with some task where we need to create without immediately turning to AI to get that process started. So what's lost in the mix? I'm not totally sure, but I suspect something, maybe that productive struggle. And isn't that true when it comes to the act of conducting high quality, meaningful research? And now here's that tool that basically crushes the task.
I'm spending a lot of time really enjoying the opportunity to work with groups of administrators, and we're doing prompting, and administrators are remarkably pressed for time. They're more than happy to kiss the tyranny of the blank screen goodbye. I think that's great. I mean, I'd much rather see a principal save a couple hours of time on some administrative task by using AI, and then have them go out and get in the classrooms or spend time with community members or parents, or just build closer relationships with their staff and their kids, right? But at the same time, we can't ignore that this tech that we're often out helping to integrate into schools and organizations calls into question the development of some really key skills that we know students need. And we have to be honest that students are bypassing some important learning each and every day. And that's happening with greater frequency and honestly in a wider band. I mean, if we think that 4th and 5th grade kids aren't using these tools to help them read or write or jumpstart the learning process, we're just kidding ourselves.
No doubt. Some of this comes back to this topic we discuss a lot, which is the development of more durable tasks and assessments across the curriculum. The angst that we are digging into is in part is associated with very important but still narrow bands of skills. And when we authentically take a learning task that has a heavy reliance on checking for understanding, 2 or 3 or 4 sentence responses, and we use something like our durable activity prompt, we see all the ways that we might be assessing student learning and the whole constellation of key skills that we're not currently focusing on or capturing through assessment, and that we really do need to look at.
I don't think I shared this before. Probably the best story of the whole summer, I was working with a leadership team, like cross-functional team, world language teacher was there, and she told a story about, she does an activity every year. It's like a global celebrations as a way to understand different cultures. And the kids do research, and then they write something about the country they're studying and the celebration or the festival that they want to highlight. And she just said, I knew I was toast. Like, this thing's just dead in the water, right? She knew that every kid was going to use AI to research the topic and then write their report. And so she turned to her colleagues and says, folks, like, what do I do? How do I make sure that this is meaningful learning for the students? I care deeply about the topic. I want them to understand these cultures and how these festivals and celebrations are a reflection of their culture. So they just started brainstorming, right? They say, well, let's come up with different ways to do this and different modalities and assessments. And essentially, she had the kids create their own mini festival or celebration for the country they were studying. And
awesome.
She basically just internalized our durable audit prompt that we use with teachers. And I asked her, I mean, I'm such a geek because I was just like literally getting moved by this story. And I said, like, how'd it go? Like, what did you think? And she said, it was the best year that we've done this, and that the depth of knowledge that the kids really meaningfully connected with the content.
But I'm assuming that it also meant it took more time.
It did, for sure. And I asked her about that. And look, she's not in an under NGSS testing environment. There are different pressures for her curriculum area, but she was like, it's well worth it. We'll thin some stuff out in the curriculum, which we talked to Jonathan about this, where he's going to do an interview in a couple of weeks where he'll discuss this at length. But yeah, it had to happen too. Like, that was the coolest part of the story. She just came to the realization, like, all next week I'm going to be out doing training on take an activity and throw it into this durable assessment prompt and help think through it. But I love that she just came to the awareness. And the cool thing is that then she turned to her colleagues and said, help me figure this out.
And that's so neat that she brought this genuine problem to her colleagues and they thought through it together. And if we could scale and replicate that self-realization and the steps that teacher took because she cares about her kids and the learning, it would be game changing for so many of the teachers and their problems that they're facing with AI. And I will say that they are problems. But that's just one part of the problem we described.
No, can't we just be done?
I wish.
It is just one part of the challenge. So we got to go back to reading or writing or creativity or productive struggle, or now this topic where we started, which is research. I mean, at some level, classroom time is going to have to take on a new premium. And we know that it's vital for students to develop some of these skills, right? In research, right? The thing that AI Storm does, as you said, to look at the resources, to evaluate them, to analyze the content, to critically assess the goal of the research process and the article that they're looking at. Like, that's just critical. Students have to learn how to build those skills.
And that's something they build by doing an annotated bibliography where they do look at each one of those resources and figure out what point of view they are taking, who are they backed by, and what Storm did all the research and synthesis without me having to read a single article, and that is definitely a loss.
I mean, it's sort of calculator territory. We said this before, but just AI is like a massive calculator for a wide swath of cognitive skills. And so some people will call it, we have a slide where we call this supervised writing or supervised learning, and it sounds kind of harsh. I mean, maybe it's really guided learning, but ultimately things like reading, writing, creativity are going to have to take center stage and be in an environment where teachers can kind of guide the process. And who knows? I mean, AI tutors may come into play over the next couple of years. Maybe they'll be very effective as an augmentation, a second brain, if you will, for teachers to help get that done. But we'll keep coming back to this. It is a fascinating topic, and the storm rolled in is a pretty darn clear example of AI taking on some skills that we know are critical for students for their success.
Absolutely. All right, for our chat back this week, we'll explore our beneath the surface deep dive on doing research. Let's ask Claude to opine on the fate of research skills in a world where Storm, Stanford's AI research tool, looms on the horizon. We'll have Claude do it in the style of Roald Dahl, the author of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. So let's see how he can do in 3 sentences.
In a world where Storm looms like a giant peach in the sky, traditional research skills might seem as outdated as a tickety-boo typewriter. Yet, just as Charlie Bucket found golden opportunities in unexpected places, clever minds will likely discover new ways to blend human curiosity with AI assistance. The fate of research skills, much like a Wonka bar, may transform into something altogether different, perhaps not better or worse, but certainly more fantastical and full of surprises.
Let's roll the credits.
All right. As always, we'd love to hear what you think, so please let us know at ChatEDU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, the regional nonprofit educational service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. On behalf of Matt and Liz and our entire agency, I want to thank you for listening to our ChatEDU podcast. We'll be dropping episodes weekly, and you'll hear some special interview episodes during the summer. Finally, keep an eye out this fall for our expanding AI community of practice and new AI micro-credentials for teachers and educational leaders. Take care, and thanks again, and tell your friends about ChatEDU.